All right, so here's one we've been excited to show you. This is 2025 World of Concrete Las Vegas. Mr. John Carrier, again, becoming famous for these tutorial videos.
Many people come up to me and say, hey, that's that guy from Scott's videos.
It's a wild ride, my friend. Welcome, welcome. So this is the one we touched on briefly at the factory there about a month ago, the 32 double Z Sany with a nice compact Outrigger footprint on the front and an insanely compact Outrigger footprint on the rear. Tons of storage space. Heavy steel. This thing is a unit. What are some of the key features on this, John, that would differentiate it from a Putzmeister?
Key features, so of course, boom design, right? The 32 meter has a very compact boom design with the lowest unfolding height in the business right now. So right around the 18-foot unfolding height. Of course, the footprint as well. What's real special about this, first of all, the pedestal, everything is integrated into the pedestal. So your water tank, your hydraulic tank, everything is integrated into the pedestal.
So that's all. So the water tank is actually, the hydraulic tank is right here.
So here's your wash system as well. So right here, your fill is here, your vent is there. So that's really cool. The deck space, there will be a little bit of some changes in this area just to kind of free it up just a little bit more. Of course, the other side's wide open. Another thing is this is a high pressure capable pump. So what we would call SBU in the Putzmeister world.
That was a big one, actually. Let's look at that. That's like one of the, for us in our market, that's one of the keys. And we didn't really get into this part too much in the previous video as far as for how exactly we would convert this over to pump high pressure off the hopper into something like a placing boom.
Yep.
What does that look like?
Let's talk about the hopper as a whole real quick. We'll talk about the assembly as a whole. So most people, when they see the hopper, they see the back end, what's the first thing they say? Looks like a tank. It's high pressure capable.
I concur.
So the hopper's reinforced, everything's reinforced because it is a high pressure capable pump. Specifically for the back end, if you want to pump high pressure, you'll open up your swing out. We have a dedicated clamp that goes here with a dedicated 90.
So this becomes your flange that your clamp goes on?
Yep, that is correct. So you go from here to a 90 and then a reducer. Like we've talked about, I think in the previous video, there's a few different reducers, their length and whatever type of ends that you use, and then rock and roll.
So the key thing is there's no bolting or unbolting of components here. You just swing the swing gate open, the transition door, and then clamp your adapters on, whichever adapters you end up needing for your application, and you go from there. So that's really handy. What does the pump kit look like from up top?
You should have a pretty good shot of it, yeah. This might not be the best one to look at, the pump kit.
So, massive shift cylinders.
Yep, 100 mil. So standard, 16 cells, usually in the 60 to 80 mil range, or 100 mil here.
So we find when you're pumping up high, it's the back pressure between strokes is one of the hardest things on the pump. If you don't have sufficient changeover cylinders, run into issues with the S-tube not wanting to switch over, getting stuck halfway.
One of the things that we were talking about right before we started filming, you can see your two small lines there, your 8L lines. Those are the pilot lines for your greaser here. So the greaser is actually hydraulic. So if you're pumping concrete, if the S-tube is shifting, it is also stroking the grease pump. So as you're pumping, it's greasing your critical parts the entire time.
So every stroke
gets a shot of grease. Yep.
What are the levers here? What are these for?
So this is that's emergency operation. So if you have any issue, you've got a hydraulic backup built in.
Okay.
So if you lose electrical, if you lose a converter, whatever the case may be, a coil, whatever the case may be, you have hydraulic.
Is one stroke and one S-tube shift?
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
Big drive cylinders. Everything on this thing's heavy.
Yep.
The material cylinders are 10-inch?
10-inch. So 260, so it's a smidge bigger than 10-inch, but yeah, 10-inch.
What's it look like in the, is it a bear to get the lid off the water box, or? Oh yeah. Yeah, they're definitely bigger than, say, like a 16H pump kit on a Putz.
Yeah. This one specifically, you can see it's got proc switches. The proc switches are backup.
Oh.
It actually has linear sensors. So if you have a failure of one or the other, you can go into the screen and you can change over from one to the other.
Oh, so this one is linear sensors with a proc switch backup.
That is correct, yes.
And is that fairly unique to this specific machine, this specific unit, or is that's just the way the pump kit is on these?
So that revision started with the 39 and the 32 and the 68. So now everything has that. So the original iteration was the 38 meter that did not have the linear sensors, but that's been just one of the rolling changes that has happened over the last few.
And that would make for smoother pumping, I would think.
It made a drastic difference.
It did. Okay.
Absolutely.
And when did that come in? This is just in very recent years.
Last year.
Oh wow.
Right?
Okay.
So it started with 68 meter, 32 meter, and 39 meter.
And this is the logic valving for switching high pressure, low pressure.
So
is
your diff block, you see the assembly that's right in the middle. That is a logic valve there, and the other one is right here. This 4-bolt pad right here. And essentially, this is what allows you to pump low pressure or high pressure without having to swap hoses. Essentially, this valve is 2 different valves in one housing. So it's a rod side valve and a head side valve. So if we're pumping just regular low pressure, that logic valve is open. That's your diff, right? So we're only retracting the cylinder. The loop oil goes through the diff block and pushes the other cylinder down. So if we switch over to high pressure, what happens is that logic valve now closes. We use this bottom valve section here. These become your drive lines, right? Now they're isolated with a logic valve. And what happens now is this logic valve now opens and these become your diff.
So it's really just 2 simple valves.
Very much so.
And that's all
really
done
well.
with the key switch and a password.
So yeah, again, it is as simple as flipping a switch. What we did is we decided that we felt it needed to be a 2-step process. This will keep, a finisher from coming over, trying to turn your water pump on to clean his boots off, and instead hits the wrong switch, turns it into high pressure.
Right.
You plug up and tear something up, right? So what you do now is you go into the screen, you input a password, you select the high pressure pumping option, and then flip the switch. So this also allows, if you're doing 2-3 jobs a day, what if your first job is a high pressure job? You forget to flip the switch back to low pressure, you go to your next job, go to prime out, and God forbid something happens. So every time the truck goes out of PTO, it will default to low pressure always, regardless of where that switch is located.
Okay. And then you need to punch the password in again to reboot it.
If you kill power, meaning you drove to your next job, you went out of PTO, you would have to input the password again. It will default to low
it's got a
pressure.
fail-safe thing. And for this one, you're saying you can retract both piston cups into the water box for changeout?
So you have a flip of a switch, you just flip the switch. And the newer updated pumps, you can see you've got mechanical stops here. That's what these are.
Oh.
So just a simple bolt. It's basically a clamshell.
Yeah.
So you unbolt it, take those out, put some mud cups right in the water box.
Easy peasy.
Yep.
Have you done a set or seen a set done?
So it takes a lot of the work out of it. Again, they're 10-inch barrels. They're heavy.
Yeah.
Right.
The cups are heavy. Okay.
You still got to get a 70-pound assembly
right.
out of there, right? But the idea of putting them in the water box instead of right at the edge of the barrel,
right?
That's
now you're not messing around with dog bones and everything else,
right?
To pull them out,
or you're not making a plate of steel so you can pop them out of there. You're not worried about putting them back in there because the machine.
We actually have that plate of steel. It's in a recent Instagram reel of mine, actually.
A couple more things too. So 10-liter accumulator. The reason it's so big is the shift cylinders are big, right? So bigger shift cylinders, bigger bladder.
Which is also very similar, like on a BSA series pump. They've got the same bigger bottle.
When we reference BSA, we're talking 14,000.
Yes, right? the big boy stuff.
Yes, the big boy. We've got some pressure sensors back here. You can see both of those. You've got one on the agitator circuit. That's this one here. What that does is, if your agitator gets bound, that pressure sensor will take over and actually automatically reverse your agitator to try to clear the body.
Oh, so if you're dealing with a crummy mix,
yep.
A lot of guys will chuck the agitator in reverse to try and fight through it.
And you have that option here too, but if it gets bound up, it will automatically reverse itself. And the other one's for the accumulator circuit. Uses a fixed displacement gear pump for the accumulator circuit. And that pressure sensor there will basically oscillate the pressure of the accumulator circuit.
What's the one that looks like it's is that an adjustment?
No, it's just a emergency.
Oh, okay. It looked like it was something that could be tuned in or up or down.
A push button for.
And this is just a boom and cradle switch?
Yep, so that will kill A down. And that way, when you put it in the cradle, A down is inactive, so you don't tear the boom.
And does that also tie into the in-cab warning, boom out of cradle
Nope,
warning?
that would be this one here.
Oh, okay, that's just an RFID.
We'll tell you, hey dummy, forgot to put the boom back in the cradle.
It's funny, I shouldn't even admit it, the amount of times where I've washed out and gone to pull ahead 5 feet or whatever, or drive back to the yard, and that saved my bacon. It's not a lot, but over a 10-year span, it has been a couple times.
Yeah. It's there for a reason.
It is there for a reason. I can attest to why it's there. So I will fully admit to it.
Another cool thing, if we look at our cooler is actually hydraulically operated, right? So no electric motor.
It's huge.
It is huge. Overheating is not a problem here.
Wow, that's a unit.
So the cool thing about this is electricity applied to the valve here turns the fan off. So worst case scenario, you lose your signal to your cooler.
Yeah.
It defaults to on.
Oh, brilliant.
That takes a lot of the electrical load out of the system as well too. It works really, really well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, lots of heavy stuff up here. This is, yeah. Some guy needs to plug this into a 40-story high-rise.
I think we can figure that out.
Some guy. These switches here, is that just for manual
pumping? So they call
pumping?
this your maintenance panel. This is designed for your mechanic. So not all mechanics are real handy with a remote or don't really want to. So this will allow them basically to do, you've got RPM, you've got agitator reverse, you've got hydraulic preheat for your cold mornings. You
can they got a preheat. How does that work?
So what this does is you flip your switch, it ramps the engine RPM up, it deadheads the drive cylinders and uses those twin 190cc Rexroth pumps to heat
wow.
oil. Then you can run your pump kit here, and then you've got your dual piston with track here, how to put your mud cups into the water box.
That's super handy for cold climates.
Yep.
Those cold mornings when you leave it in Outrigger or leave the water on or whatever trick you prefer to use to get some heat in the oil. So that's what we got going on up top. Climb down below here.
So we talked about Outriggers briefly, right? Sany has a really nice OSS system that's all done by proc switches. Each Outrigger has a proc switch. You can see this one here. So it knows a fully extended Outrigger. Their system is always on. So as soon as you short rig one Outrigger, it will automatically limit the boom. So if we were to short rig this Outrigger, it would limit us to that side of the truck. So basically center line of the hopper to roughly over the front Outrigger, automatically.
What is the load? I'm curious to what load is on the rear Outriggers. Okay, so 39,000. Yeah, so the Outrigger loads are basically square front to rear. Which is pretty handy for simplifying required dunnage.
Sure.
Calculate out what you need, and it's the same from front to rear. Control panel, master control panel. I'm curious to see if
it's open. We can get it open here in a second. We'll take a look at it. I'll get some keys. So a few things going on. Of course, we've got our air cuff assembly. We've got our PTO valve. We've got, of course, local remote. This here is inclination sensor. So the logic on these units is after you set your Outriggers up, if you are outside of spec, 5 degrees, it will not let you clear E-stop until you fix your inclination. So that's what we're using here.
I like that, because you ain't got no business being out of 5 degrees. I don't care if you're booming off the front and you're 5 degrees to the side. We've had pumps in our market slide back on the pads into ready mix trucks. So it's not, there's more to it than just stress on the turning gear. So I like that.
Yeah, and there's always the old argument of dropping the back end. Sure, hopper height comes into play, right? Yeah. Needing to have the back end a little lower. But I hear it all the time is we do this, we jack the front end up, and we drop the back end down. It helps with fill rate. And I tell them, take a look at the flat pack. It's already mounted in the pump on that angle. Level the pump out. Level the pump out. It's not helping with fill rate. Sure, it might be, you might be on an incline and the hopper's a little too high. I understand, but the idea of it helps with fill rate is excellent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, 5 degrees is a pretty good slope. It's a big slope. So yeah, no, I'm fully on board with that.
So of course we have our HBC receiver and our boom control block.
Okay, so there's HBC radio controls.
Yep.
valving for the air cuff. So very simple stuff.
Yep.
And the brains of the operation is the other side. That's where we're going next. Yep. For outrigger operation, just out of curiosity, is it switch?
So you have an
levers?
electronic dead man.
Okay.
So what will happen is in local, you go to set up your outrigger, you press and hold.
Yeah.
There's a small delay, engine RPM ramps up,
yeah,
and then the outrigger valve throws. Then you can operate your outriggers.
Oh, so do you have to be set to outrigger on the remote control or no?
So that's going through a revision right now. There is no outrigger on the remote.
Okay.
You go into local, you clear e-stop, operate outriggers.
Yeah.
Here, hopefully sometime maybe by the end of this year or beginning of next year, there will be outrigger on the remote and it'll be much simpler to do outriggers. We don't have it in-house yet.
So we go over to the brain side of things here.
So here's your control panel. New touchscreen display, all touchscreen. You can run it touchscreen or you can run it with buttons as well. A lot of really good information is displayed there. One of my favorite things about it is everything that inputs into the computer or outputs out of the computer, you have a visual representation of it. So what I like to tell guys is, let's say one day you go to turn your agitator on. Agitator doesn't come on, okay? Normally what you're used to, let me go grab some tools, let me go get the schematic, let me see where the pinouts are, let's see what's going on. Here what you can do is you can go into your input screen and immediately see, do I have an input from the switch into the control cabinet? If I do, now I got to check an output. Okay, do I have an output? Is the computer sending that output out? If I have it, I go, okay, now I know my issue's back here. I'm going immediately back here to see if I can get my agitator. Vice versa, if I turn my switch on, nothing's there, I go to my inputs and I have no input, I'm immediately going to the switch to see what's going on with the switch, right? So 90% of your troubleshooting all done by
from this.
All done right there.
And then for the password we were talking about, you just log in and punch it. Was like a 4-digit code or something?
There's only some things that are password protected, right? Your bypasses are not password protected, right? So things to get you out of a bind, not password protected. But the things you're only going to use every so often are all behind a password.
Where's the key switch to put it in badass mode? that's the one I want to see.
Yeah, so that key switch is at the rear step.
Oh, it is. It's the back of the pump.
It is, yeah, it is. So inside, real clean, not a whole lot going on. You've got both of your Sany motion controllers. You've got one for boom and outrigger and one for your pump kit. All your fuses and relays are located in here. You've got an e-stop relay for your e-stop circuit. You've got an IFM relay for your hopper grate safety switch. You've got your speed control module, so this is the interface between the cabin.
Can we pop that one off?
Absolutely.
I'm curious what it looks like inside. Oh, wow. Yeah, very basic, right?
Very, very basic.
Yeah,
and of course our two relays, we have one for our e-stop clear and one for our air cuff.
This is more simple than a lot of even our 15-year-old machines inside. Is that a light?
Yes.
Oh, battery's not on, but that's a handy feature too. I just think it's so cool that you can go from high pressure to low pressure with the key switch.
Yep, very, very cool.
For all those hours in the yard, switching from rod side to piston side, making a mess on the ground with oil. That's kind of the 5-section boom and the stubby rear outriggers are really the highlights for me. Deck space is a big one too. There's a lot of deck space on this thing. So where's the actual key?
High pressure on and off.
Oh wow, just a toggle.
And again, remember the switch does nothing.
So when you use the example, the finisher's accidentally hitting it. Yeah. You weren't kidding. Like, that's right where they would. So that's why there's a password.
And two things, right? A lot of companies, these operators are out doing multiple jobs a day. So that was really what first came up. It was like, okay, what if his first job in the morning is a high pressure job? Yeah. And then he's going slab on grade flat work after that, and he forgets to turn it. So that way, when he goes out of pump gear, kills power to the pump side, defaults to low pressure.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that can happen if you plug into a high rise and you're on high pressure? You run out of pressure, you hit the switch, hit the 4-digit passcode, and problem solved. Versus the other way around, right? So, yeah, no, it's a really impressive package. There's a lot of really neat features on this, so I'm excited to see one of these out in the field. See one working. There might be, I heard there might be a demo rolling through our town, a demo unit, so we'll try and get out and make some videos, show you what it can do. We've talked about it a lot now, So we'll
Got the talking part complete.
yeah, we got that part
We're done
done.
on that part.
So now we're get one in the field and show how it performs. So awesome.
I'm excited for it myself.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this product line. It's come a long way since the first inception,
It has.
especially to adapt to our North American needs.
It's been a lot of work involved, and it's come out really good.
Yeah, no, I think we're there. So, well, always, John, appreciate your
Absolutely,
time
brother.
and your insight, and
Glad to help.
look forward to talking to you lots more about these units here. So, till next time, keep on pumping. But wait, there's more. We're gonna put it in high pressure mode.
So you can see right now, we've been messing with it, showing things. So anything that goes wrong from an error standpoint, you get a beautiful readout right here. Obviously, it's an e-stop, so everything e-stop related. Low temperature, enforced rotation is on right now. So anything that goes wrong, you get a beautiful readout of it. So we go to the home screen. We go to operator settings.
We'll show the
input our-
password. Okay, you can go. You're safe. 6969. It never gets old.
All right, so we'll go to our pumping parameters, and we can see right here, bullet point number 11, high pressure enabled. If we were to turn this to yes,
Yeah.
and then flip the switch into high pressure,
Yeah.
rock and roll.
So would you normally do this before the toggle switch, or does it matter? The
It really
order?
doesn't matter. I would do this because until you do this, the position of that switch means nothing.
Okay.
So if it's in high pressure, it doesn't do high
Yeah.
pressure until.
And it's like an instantaneous. The solenoid just clicks over,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you've diverted your hydraulic flow, and you're rocking and rolling.
Yep.
You guys are the only ones that have this,
As far as I know.
I believe, right? Yeah, I know. This is really cool.
We also talked a minute ago about it having linear sensors
Yes.
and proc switches. So this bullet point number 14 is where you would change from proc switches to
okay.
linear sensors, or vice versa, really. So failure, you'd come in here, you'd switch it back over, rock and roll.
So you've got some redundancy there.
Yes.
You got two of the most advanced redundant systems: proc switches and linear sensors. There's not even pressure sensors.
Yep.
Amazing.